On this news flow around Ireland, this is all just breaking news at the moment. Do you sense that it is possible to get a deal? This takes us slightly closer to getting a deal between the Chequers proposal and the EU 27. Does that still seem feasible then?
I don't know about this specific story, but certainly across government there are some very serious ministers who are still committed to getting some version of Chequers through, and they're clearly going to have to first negotiate something further in Brussels. I have to say that's only the first half of the process. You've then got to bring it to the House of Commons and get it through the House of Commons, which would be even trickier. But definitely the Prime Minister and the people around her are still trying to get some version of Chequers through.
I listened to a little bit of the Chancellor Philip Hammond today, and he was talking about if we get a deal on Brexit, whether this Chequers plan goes through, a Brexit deal, there'd be a Brexit dividend. Do you buy that, a Brexit dividend based on an agreement? So the taxes staying low, he argued, paying down debt, more money for public services.
Well, the evidence is so far Brexit has damaged the British economy. We have not grown as rapidly as we should have done, given the overall performance of the global economy. I guess what the Chancellor could have been saying, though, is given all the uncertainty, anything that removes the uncertainty and that showed we have a way forward, especially if it involved a continuing close link to the European single market, would be better than the current situation, so would bring a dividend.
Yes, perhaps he was making the comparison between a no-deal scenario, and in that case this would be exactly a Brexit dividend. Something else he referenced, which I know ties into a lot of the research that you've been doing at the Resolution Foundation over intergenerational fairness and where the Brexit vote perhaps came from. He was saying that Brexit didn't happen in a vacuum. He looked back over the last 20 years and said when you look at the market economy, there's a difference between the way people thought it was going to distribute wealth and the way it really has. Does that tap into some of the things that you're looking at the Resolution Foundation?
Is absolutely right on that. And our analysis at Resolution Foundation has shown that, especially since the crash, wages of people in the middle, median earnings, have not performed at all well. In fact, the problems began a bit before the crash, parts of the country where the economy has not performed well. And I think one of the reactions to Brexit has been to force people to contemplate the fact, look, that capitalism has not delivered across the country for everyone. And it would be great if we can get back onto a domestic agenda which tries to tackle that sort of problem.
Is it difficult for other things other than Brexit to get any airtime in UK politics? I mean, you lead the Resolution Foundation, you want to bring about policies that champion a fairer society perhaps, but do you get the ear of the people in the same way you used to when they're all so busy with Brexit?
Well, it's peculiar. It cuts both ways. They are very preoccupied with Brexit, both in government and in opposition. On the other hand, as soon as you go through the kind of analysis we had from the Chancellor, you realise that boosting living standards of people in low-paid jobs, better prospects for younger people who are often stuck in low-paid sectors, spreading ownership, ending the reversal of home ownership, those are exactly the kind of ways that you tackle the grievances that lay behind the Brexit vote. And I do find that both government and opposition want to hear from us on things like that.
Meanwhile, we've come into this conference with a lot of talk of division even within the party. I mean, you've seen a lot of this before, David, haven't you? You must be able to put this in some context for international viewers, I suppose. I mean, even the Brexiteers I was speaking to were downplaying Boris Johnson's intentions to run for leadership. How do you view the latest fallings out from within the Tory camp?
Well, look, it's inevitable that a party conference becomes a kind of beauty parade of leadership candidates. That happens, and that is part of the politics of this week. On the other hand, I think I can also sense a recognition that domestic policy matters, and I very much hope that in the main interventions from ministers we'll hear more on domestic policy. And I think also in British politics it's a very turbulent time because Brexit is a cross-cutting political issue, both within Labour and Conservative. There are people who think it's a fantastic thing to do. People in the Labour Party think it enables them to deliver socialism. People in my party, in the Conservative Party, who thinks it's going to enable them to deliver a kind of Singapore capitalism. And others, like myself, who think that leaving the EU is a very high economic risk. But that doesn't fall neatly in party lines, so it makes party conferences more turbulent.
Do you sense Boris Johnson on the ascendancy, that he's going to launch some sort of leadership bid, or is that only known to Boris and a few?
Well, look, I'm not as close to this as always. I think that I think he's clearly very active.
What's his appeal with the wider party?
Well, many members...
Does he still have that appeal?
Many members of the Conservative Party are Brexiteers, and he is one of the standard bearers for Brexit. He has this fantastic line of direct communication to them through his column in the Daily Telegraph. He is, using that proverbial expression, a big beast. So, yeah, he's very out and active.